My name is Garrett Gunchick. I'm a qualified lawyer in New York, as well as a solicitor in England and Wales, and I was able to pass both QLTS exams on my first attempt. I started law school in 2010 in Malibu, California, and my second year I came to Germany to do a summer program as well as earn an LLM here in Germany at the University of Augsburg. And while there I did a couple internships at two very large firms, and I had a mentor there, and he told me, if you want to be taken seriously in Germany, you should take the QLTS exam, especially with my background as a New York qualified lawyer. And I decided to do that, and I worked at one of the big four, and while I was doing that, I was studying for the QLTS. And as soon as I got done with the second QLTS exam, literally the day it finished, I started getting phone calls from headhunters from large law firms wanting to bring me in and talk to me about a possible career. I wanted to take the QLTS exam because I wanted to stay in Germany. I spent 15 months here doing an LLM from 2012 to 2013, and while here I did a couple internships at two very large law firms, and I had a mentor at one of these firms and said, Garrett, as a New York attorney, if you want to stay and work in Germany, your New York qualification is great, but it would be very, very beneficial if you would take the QLTS and pass that and become a solicitor in England and Wales as well. And so from that point, as mid-2013, I set a goal to take and pass the QLTS. I decided to take a preparation course with the QLTS school because I had talked with people that had taken not only the exam but the QLTS school before. Very intelligent people, very successful attorneys at some of the largest law firms in the world, and they all told me the same thing. They said, you will not be able to pass this exam without taking a preparation course. It was just a flat out, it cannot be done. Everyone I talked to that had taken the QLTS exam had recommended the QLTS school. It was not a one recommendation or a two recommendation. I got this from everyone that I had talked to. I signed up for LinkedIn. I got LinkedIn mail. I started messaging people who had this dual New York New York solicitor in England and Wales qualification. And everyone said, you have to take a preparation course. Without a preparation course, you cannot pass this exam. And so everyone recommended, literally 100% recommended the QLTS school in taking the QLTS exam. My experiences with the QLTS school were overwhelmingly positive. The QLTS is broken into two exams, the MCT and the OSCE. The MCT exam prep by the QLTS school is very straightforward. You get a box of books shipped to you. You read the books. You answer the multiple choice questions. There's more than 2,500 possible multiple choice questions the QLTS school has in their data bank. I did them all. And once you read the books and do the questions, you're adequately prepared for the first part of the exam. The second exam is a bit more intricate. You have to know which questions to ask. You can know the law very well, but if you don't know how to ask the crisis actor in front of you the correct questions, you won't get the right answers, and thus you're going to lose points and fail. And what the QLTS school does very, very well is it takes the knowledge you gain passing the first part of the exam and refines it and builds on it in a way. They teach you how to ask the correct questions in the second part of the exam so you can get the points to pass on your first attempt. Of the QLTS school, I found two aspects most beneficial, the first of which was for the MCT, and that was the multiple choice questions bank. The multiple choice questions bank is very detailed, and when you get a question right or wrong, it gives you an explanation as to why. When I was studying, after I read all the books that came with the QLTS school, I did all the multiple choice questions starting a month before the exam. Whether I got the question right or wrong, I would write the rule statement down in a notepad, and I took that notepad with me for the exam. And before the exam, I would read through the notepad. And this was an invaluable resource that, from what I understand, most other providers don't offer. In the second part of the exam, the OSCE, what I found extremely beneficial was the tutor. There's an actual live person that you can talk with, call with, Skype with, and that not only step you through the process of the exam itself, registering for the role of solicitors, but they'll also assist you with the exam, obviously. They will go through mock exams with you, and they'll make it almost foolproof. You make mistakes, they correct you, and you do it again. And without these two resources, I would not have passed. From start to finish, it was 11 months, from cracking a book the first time to walking out of the second exam. I did take a 1-month break after I finished the MCT, but before I got results back. So total study time was actually 10 months. I was working full-time while I was studying, and every day after work I would put in about 2 hours of study time, and then on the weekends it would typically be 8 hours a day. And so I'd wake up early on Saturday, do it, and that way you still have Saturday afternoon and evening. Anyone who's watching this video has already sat for a bar exam somewhere in the world, and they know that feeling of the day before their bar exam. Even though they've studied for months, sometimes years, they still feel unprepared. And the QLTS exam is no different. However, while emotionally you might feel unprepared, logically you know you are prepared. And so I shared these same emotions when I went into both exams, but I passed the second hardest MCT ever administered with more than 10 percentage points to spare. That means I got 18 additional questions correct that I didn't need to get correct to pass. Then for the OSCE, I passed the hardest OSCE ever administered on my first shot. My primary job responsibilities right now are assisting with deal management, both capital markets and banking finance. Most banking finance deals are English law governed, so being a qualified solicitor is vitally important in achieving these goals and fulfilling my job description. What we do is we help both banks and we help the borrowers walk through a transaction where a borrower wants to refinance, they want to acquire another company, or they just want to borrow money to expand their business. And similar to someone borrowing money for a home loan, which is a few €100,000, when you're borrowing a few €100 million, the paperwork gets much more detailed, and this is what I assist with. QLTS has helped me in my career in the legal market by expanding my desirability to employers that are looking for qualified English solicitors. Without this, a firm that's looking for a solicitor wouldn't have ever called me. And it's interesting, literally the day after I finished my second exam, before I ever got the results, I was getting phone calls and emails from recruiters from some of the largest law firms in the world wanting to place me due to my English qualification. The QLTS school is absolutely necessary in completing both the OSCE and the MCT. Without a preparation course, you cannot pass these exams. It just can't be done. There's too much information. They test it in fundamentally different ways than you would normally think about it. And without someone holding your hand and teaching you how to answer the questions in the OSCE and how to fit so much information into your head for the MCT, there's no way you can pass. These courses are expensive. There's no doubting that, but they're worth every cent. Because if you're investing the time and the money in the exams and you're not willing to spend the money on the course, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your employer's time, and you're wasting your money. The piece of advice I have for people preparing for the QLTS assessment is more of a question than it is advice. The question is, how badly do you want it? As I stated, I did this without stopping. 10 months of solid study, 11 months start to finish. That's 10 months of missed birthdays, missed vacations, missed time with friends, missed holidays. Studying for this exam, it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job on top of your full-time job. And so if this is just another point on your resume, this is something you're casually thinking about doing for the fun of it, I wouldn't recommend it. However, if this is something that you want to do, you have to do. Commit to yourself that you're going to do it, and do it. But if you're going to do it right. And the only way to do it correctly is with a preparation course. I can only recommend the QLTS because I had great success with it. I would recommend the QLTS school to any attorney all over the world that works in international banking and finance. As you already know, if you fit this description, all the documents that cross your desk, or at least the overwhelming majority of them, are English law qualified. They're English law documents. Being able to sign them, certify copies, is something invaluable, and it gives you a huge advantage over your competition. I think the most important skill and quality needed to be an effective modern lawyer is diversification. The ability to have a skill or a trade that is valuable all over the world. You can go from England to Germany to Russia to Bangladesh to China to Taiwan to the United States to Chile and have the skill that people will pay you for, something that you're good at and that's marketable all over the world. And I think that's the key. That's what's important to being an effective modern lawyer, diversification.